Universal Credit, Transitional Provisions. Claimants previously entitled to a severe disability premium. Amendment Regulations 2021. Motion of regret. Baroness Sherlock.
My Lords, I'm pleased to move this motion standing in my name. These regulations are the latest twist in a long-running saga. They concern the Severe Disability Premium, or SDP, which provides support for the extra costs of care incurred by severely disabled people living alone without a carer to look after them. It's worth about £67 a week and it's paid on various means-tested benefits. The last government's figures I could see suggest there's about, well, over 500,000 working-age households getting SDP. But when the government created Universal Credit to replace legacy benefits, they chose not to include an equivalent to the SDP. As a result, although some disabled people are better off, many of the severely disabled people getting this premium would be much worse off on Universal Credit than legacy benefits. That's a wider pattern that some people are better off on Universal Credit than legacy benefits and others much worse off. To deal with that, the government pledged a system of transitional protection so that at the point of transfer, no one would lose out in cash terms. But, my Lords, they will only apply this during what they call mass migration, the point when DWP closes down legacy benefit claims en masse and tells people they have to go and claim Universal Credit instead. If someone moves on to UC before that point, called natural migration, they get no transitional protection. Unfortunately, many people have no choice. You can't make new claims for legacy benefits. And if you're already getting them, but your circumstances change, say you lose your job, have a baby, move house, you're forced onto Universal Credit. Two people getting the SDP found themselves in this position when they moved home. They were forced onto UC and much worse off. So they went to court. And in 2018, the High Court ruled this was unlawful discrimination. So DWP created something called the SDP Gateway to stop those getting the premium from naturally migrating to Universal Credit and losing out. And those who'd already crossed over were given compensation for the lost premium. Although that was originally set arbitrarily low, so it was challenged in court again, and it's now based on the lost SDP. These regulations remove that gateway and give some compensation to those who will then be moving over to Universal Credit. But it's not full compensation. It doesn't compensate for the loss of the enhanced disability premium, only for the severe disability premium. Nothing's paid where the SDP is only attached to housing benefit. And it's a fixed sum, which is reduced when any part of your Universal Credit rises, even if that's only because your rent's gone up. So claimants will see the support they receive falling in real terms year on year. Now, my Lords, if someone moved onto Universal Credit during the managed migration, they would have transitional protection based on all of their legacy benefits, not just the SDP. But that managed migration process has been paused. Can the Minister tell us what the new target date is for completing it? And Zacchaeus 2000 points out that COVID-19 has increased rates of redundancy and changes in working hours, in turn increasing the number of people on legacy benefits experiencing a change in circumstances. So more claimants are going to end up moving on to Universal Credit with no transitional protection or just the transitional SDP element. But Lord, some vulnerable people risk losing a lot of money. Marie Curie, in their excellent briefing, point out the impact on people with terminal illnesses or life-limiting conditions. They say the loss of the two disability premiums could leave new claimants up to £84 a week worse off. Then, my Lords, there's a related issue of the £20 uplift in Universal Credit. That was not applied to legacy benefits, many of whose recipients are disabled people or carers. This is incomprehensible as well as unfair, since if it's meant to be a pandemic measure, many sick and disabled people have spent the last year at home shielding with spiralling energy costs and lots of additional costs like home deliveries or PPE or much more. Now, astonishingly, the Secretary of State, Therese Coffey, suggests that claimants should simply claim Universal Credit if they want the £20. Well, Lords, this is terrible advice. Some people will be worse off on Universal Credit than they are on legacy benefits, even with that extra £20. Other people who would be better off on Universal Credit because of the £20 uplift will then be worse off if it's taken away. And how will they know? It's really complicated. DWP says it can't advise individual claimants, So why on earth is the Secretary of State telling people to switch? And if someone applies for universal credit, there's no going back. We may have all seen cases in the news of people who were getting tax credits, who then applied for universal credit and were rejected because they had savings. And UC has a savings threshold, unlike tax credits. But then they weren't allowed to go back to tax credits, so they got nothing. And we can't have that surely applying across all kinds of other categories of claimant. So, my lords, what should be done? First, the government should urgently address the flaws in its strategy for dealing with people in receipt of severe disability premium who are going to be forced onto universal credit. The House of Lords Economic Affairs Committee said that the DWP should introduce an equivalent to the severe disability premium. Excuse me. They said this should be a self-care element for any disabled person who does not have someone assisting them and claiming the care element of universal credit. Many charities agree. What is the government's response to this? Second, DWP should address the process of claimants moving from legacy benefits onto universal credit. We need an urgent update on managed migration, we need mass communication, and we need personalised advice given to anyone thinking of moving so they know the consequences for them before they make that jump. Thirdly, the government should extend the £20 uplift to legacy benefits. And my lords, they should do the right thing and make that £20 uplift permanent. The Economic Affairs Committee put the case simply. We believe that the increase shows the original rate was not adequate. They continued, the government should commit to making the increase in the standard allowance permanent. My lords, that original rate is not adequate as a result of years of benefit cuts and freezes. House of Commons library figures show that excluding COVID-related increases, most working age benefits were between 9% and 17% lower last year than they would have been if the government had simply uprated them by inflation since 2010. And the OBR estimated that the 2015 budget would cut over £9 billion from social security spending by the end of this financial year. Well, it's no wonder that before that £20 uplift, unemployment support was at its lowest level in real terms since 1992. My lords, we need action. Temporarily extending it will simply temporarily extend the confusion and uncertainty. The government should do the right thing, address the problem with SDP, extend the uplift to legacy benefits, make it permanent, and announce it as soon as possible so people have certainty and can judge for themselves whether they'll be better off on universal credit or legacy benefits. My lords, the case for taking action on this matter could not be clearer. I hope I don't have to press this motion to a vote, because I hope very much the government will realise what's at stake and do the right thing. I beg to move.